parents are legally divorced. The family your father and I started over 40 years ago when we met so tenderly has ended. But the new family we will still all build together is being born tonight as you read these words. I hasten to remind you of the promised land God gave to those wanderers before us. Such is the land we are, all of us, entering now. Let us take possession of it with hope, ready to meet the challenges ahead with hearts tempered in the forge of honest struggle, aware of our past sins, but ready to grow. God asks no more of us than that. I've copied your father on this email, for though we are no longer married, we're still endless gratitude for the love and beauty of all and the beauty in all of you, my angels.
And that is the beginning of Greenleaf episode 10, season 3, called The Promised Land. Basically, Lady May have sat down and wrote this passionate email letter to all of her children and her grandchildren to explain that her and the bishop is now officially divorced. And this is the beginning of episode 10 and season 3. We go on and we see that Rochelle and Grace is basically meeting up with Miss Hunter. I'll call her Miss Hunter by her last name. And Miss Hunter has decided that she is going to go ahead and take the plea deal that the early lawyer had basically presented to her. And Grace goes and asks her, well, why are you basically taking this plea deal? And so Miss Hunter goes on and explains to Grace, she says, well, I'm not quite sure whether or not if I will be able to win this case. And that's when Grace asks her, she says, well, why don't you think that you can begin this case? And then Grace says, well, do you think that I may be the reason why you want to take this case? And she goes on to say, well, I don't want to lose it. And then this is when Rochelle, she steps in. And Rochelle says, you're not going to take this. You're not going to take this plea deal. Basically what it is that I'm going to get you to change your mind. And this is when Rochelle goes on and explain exactly what happened to her and her sister when she used to be a young kid, and that her mother was in jail, and her and her sister wind up in the system. And she goes on and say that she doesn't want her to be a part of the system and doesn't want her children to be a part of the system. And this is when Grace goes on and say, goes by and remind Miss Hunter, she says, well, if you take this case and you basically win, you could basically help a lot of women who are basically in the same position that you are. And then this is when Rochelle goes on and to explain to Miss Hunter that Grace has a lawyer basically for her. And so we go on and we see after that, we go on and we see that we see Zara and we see Isaiah. And what's happening is that apparently Isaiah is basically getting ready to go on tour. And he's in the radio station doing the interview, and people are basically the little skanky girls are basically calling in, and being all fresh with Isaiah and calling in and asking for front row seats, and apparently in episode 9, when we see that Zara was getting ready to basically, run off with Isaiah, and then Isaiah comes out with his cell phone. He basically did put Jacob and him online, because one of the little girls called up and asked Isaiah, "Is it really true exactly what happened to you in the mansion and about that old man and everything?" And that's when Isaiah tried to avoid that question. And so we go on and we see that Zara was basically received a text message or something um, on a phone, and apparently Isaiah saw that the phone basically went off while he was basically on the interview, and he got kind of huffy and upset due to the fact that you know this was going on. And so then we go on and we see that let's go on and deal with Charity. Apparently Charity has met a young man. I think his name is Mike. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, Maxine Patterson's music director. He's a very handsome, beautiful guy, slim and everything. And so she goes on and she meets him because she thinks that he is here to do, trying to get an order to get some new music books or something like that. But he tells Charity, "No, I'm not here for that. I'm basically here to talk to you about the arrangement of about the day for Lady May." And so Charity was like, "Oh, okay. And so let's begin this meeting and everything." So I think his name is James. I'm going to make sure. And then we find out, he says, "Well, before we get into this conversation, you know, let's do some praying." So apparently, uh, Charity had her head down, but she was basically like looking at the guy, thinking to herself. And so, I guess what's happening is that I don't know whether or not he took a liking to her or they took a liking to each other, but he did ask Charity if basically, if she would be interested in going out to dinner. So of course Charity says yes. But prior before that, Charity basically began to tell her history, a little bit too much information. What's that, IPP or whatever, too much information. And so she went on and told this guy that, what is this guy's name? She went on and told this guy that she had a baby and that she would, be willing to take it and everything, but, she had a baby. And so that's when he says, "Well, I didn't know, Miss Maxine didn't tell me that you were married." And she says, "Yes, I have a son." And then this is when Charity went on and told the guy that her husband was gay. And so this is when we have the young fellow begin to chastise Kevin due to the fact that he's living a lifestyle and he shouldn't be there, anything like that. And so basically, Charity was basically feeling some kind of way. And so he was interested in Charity again. So he called Charity again. And this time he asked Charity again if she wanted to go out to dinner. And Charity says she accepted the invitation, but before she accepted the invitation, she felt the need to let this fella know that yes, Kevin may be living a lifestyle that I too much don't agree with and you too much don't agree with, but you don't know the stuff that he had to do in order to come out and to live his authentic life. And so this is when the young fellow felt that he still needed to go on and talk a little bit more. And so this is when Charity said, you know what? I don't think you, nah, I don't think you are for me. And so this is when the young fellow says, well, was there something that I did or anything like that? And Charity basically did get into it a little bit more. She basically hung up on him. She hung up on him. And I would say, good thing for you, Charity. But remember in episode 8, you asked when you were going to get your chance. When will love find you? Well, you know what? You paid attention. You paid attention because I believe he was interested in you, but he was a little bit more controlling, and you pretty much saw the red flag, and kudos for you. But you also took up for Kevin. I find that was very interesting. Charity, when you meet somebody, don't be so quick to tell your life story. Just, let it ride, find out more about it, and take your time in trying to find love because you're going to mess up like you did the first time. And so we go on and we know that basically Karissa. Karissa is the director of the school that she is running. So she basically have two positions. She's the first lady at Triumph, and not only that, she runs a middle school. So she decides to basically take a day off so she can get her position back as being the first lady. So she goes on and she tells Jacob, she says, you know what? Everybody is basically getting all upset. Basically, is because Tasha decides that she wants to up and quit. And so this is when Karissa asks Jacob, do you really know the reason why, Tasha decides that, she just want to up and quit? And of course, Jacobs is like in the back in the chair saying, nah, I don't know why she wanted to quit. She just up and quit. We know why. You know why Tasha fell in love with your little ass. But you didn't want to tell Karissa because if you tell Karissa, she was going to get all in that ass. But she going to get all in that ass anyway as I go on. And so this is when Karissa went on and said, you know what? You know what? Um, she could quit. She might have quit it because Basie might be in town. Might be coming back to town. And you know what, Karissa, you were onto something. We're going to get a little bit into that. And so, but in the meantime, we go on, and Karissa has a new accountant. And this new accountant is a brother from another country, but he is already on the key. He has already done found some mistakes, and this is when Karissa introduces herself, and I believe, let me take a look at my notes. I believe I don't know what the accountant's name. The accountant's name was Omar. I believe the accountant's name was Omar. I might be wrong. Please put it in the comments. And so Omar goes on, and he let Karissa know that there is some discrepancies in the bookkeeping. And so this is when, and oh, by the way, the name of the person that Charity was interested in, his name was Michael. I think Michael was the big, I don't know, but anyway, let me go on so I can stay focused. And so we go on and we see that we see Rochelle and we see Gace again with Miss Hunter. And this time we see basically the new lawyer that's basically is going to take over the case. And so Miss Hunter basically asks the new lawyer, do you think that you'll be able to win the case? And so this is when the new lawyer tells Miss Hunter, if I didn't think I could win the case, I wouldn't take this case. So basically, I'm taking this case because I know I can win it. And so this is when Miss Hunter basically grabs Rochelle, and she basically hugs him. Now, Grace is basically looking at Rochelle out of the side of her eye, basically giving her a side eye, like, yeah, I see you. I see you. And so after they finish the meeting with Miss Hunter, Grace gets on the phone. And she gets on the phone and she makes a call to Darius. And Darius is like, "Yo, what's up? What's up? What's going on? What is the reason why you calling me?" And so this is when Grace tells Darius, she says, "Look, I want you to dig a little bit more deeper into Rochelle. I've got some information, and I want you to see what you can come up with." And this is when Rochelle goes in. I mean, this is when Grace tells Darius the history and the background due to the fact that, Rochelle was going from foster home to foster home, and Rochelle had a sister. So we go on, and we go on, and then we go on, and we see that Patterson, Maxine Patterson, Maxine Patterson, and Lady May is basically in the office, talking about arrangements, and this is when the secretary comes in and talk and lets Lady May know that she basically has a phone call from Lionel, and so then this is when Lady May basically is like, you know what, put him on, tell him I'll get back with him. And so secretary goes back, current, the secretary goes back and, let Lionel know that Lady May will basically get back with him. And so we're still dealing with Lady and Maxine Waters. And so this is when Maxine Waters asks Lady May, do you have anybody who's basically going to be speaking at your She Changed It All or whatever that title was. And so Lady May tells Maxine said, well, yeah, I have a speaker here and there. And so this is when Maxine says, well, why don't you basically let Grace basically do, have the first part? And Lady May was like, hell no, hell no, I'm not letting her do that. Just forget about it. And so this is when Patterson, because Maxine is kind of messy. She's kind of messy, and she looks like she like dig, or she's messy, y'all. She's kind of messy, and so this is when Maxine says, "So what's going on with you and Grace? Why you won't, you know, ain't something ain't right in the coffee. Something ain't right in the coffee." And so this is when Maxine tried to sugar up Grace. Maxine comes in, she has some coffee. So when I said something ain't right in the coffee, she's trying to basically dig into Grace and tell Grace and says, well, basically, what's going on with you and your mother? And so Grace basically tried to avoid her and, go on and say, well, look, I don't know what's really going on. I really don't know what's going on. And so in the meantime, we see that Rochelle is basically at Cowerton. She's in the office. She's in the temporary office where her and Grace will basically be doing a lot of the trials and stuff where people will, be trying to bail out these women who have cases. And so the bishop basically comes in and asks Rochelle what's going on. And so this is when Rochelle tells the bishop, well, this is the temporary office of your daughter before she basically gets her own building for the defense fund. And so this is when Rochelle gets kind of nosy and begins to dig in. And she says to the bishop, she says, is it true? Is it true? And so the bishop, looks at her and say, well, what are you talking about? She says, is it true that your divorce is finally, it's finally? And he says, yeah, it's true. And this is when Rochelle said, all right, all right, all right. It seems like it's true because everybody is talking. And so this is when Rochelle basically threw some innuendos at him and said, well, you know what? Let's go out and let's have some drink in the daytime. And so basically, Rochelle was saying, well, now that you are legally divorced, we don't have to be sneaking around in the dark. Let's throw some light on the situation. Let's have some drinks in the light. And I was like, girl, let me tell y'all, Rochelle, I don't know her last name, whatever her name is, but as far as I'm concerned, she is basically really playing his part right here. And so I'm saying to myself, Bishop, 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 you and you ain't done nothing with her yet, but I don't know. I really don't know. But anyway, we go on and we basically go on and do it. Then we see Tasha. Tasha is pissy drunk, y'all. Pissy, pissy, pissy. Pissy drunk. She's sitting there drinking and pining. Looks like she got some Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker. Looks like she's had, like 2 or 3 more. She looks like she had 3 bottles of dark liquor. And she's just drinking it. Just drinking. And so this one we get a knock on the door and it's Rochelle. And then Rochelle says, basically, let me in here. So Tasha goes to the door and everything and says, well, what, in other words, what the hell do you want? What the hell do you want? And then this is when Rochelle is like, why your ass ain't over at Triumph? What you doing home? What's going on with you? Why you drinking? And this is when Tasha says, I basically quit. I quit. And Rochelle said, you did what? She said, I quit. And she said, you mean you left Triumph? Why did you leave Triumph? She says, well, basically, I've done everything that you want me to do, you know? And then this is when Rochelle realized that Tasha has basically fallen for Jacob. And then this Rochelle said, you fell for this guy, didn't you? She said, Tasha said, Jacob is not the person who you think he is. He's a good guy. If I wasn't dealing with basically I would have somebody like Jacob. He's a good guy. Then this is when Rochelle said, so you didn't fell in love with this guy. You didn't mess around and fell in love with this guy. And you basically left the church where somebody might be able to follow your trail and left stuff unopened. But guess what? You're right, Rochelle. The new accountant has found the money, has found the money trail, and it's beginning to put 2 and 2 together and dots and dots and dots and lines together. So you're right. You're right. Her sloppiness has opened up the gate for Melissa. So we see that Melissa and basically Jacob is at the Triumph, and Jacob is looking at papers, and she said to herself, I don't talking to Karissa and saying that I don't remember what I signed these papers for. I don't remember what I signed these papers for. I know she had me sign some papers, but I ain't really see. That's the problem. See, you were so busy, you know, dealing with your feelings and stuff, and then not Tasha, but Karissa, digged into your hind parts where you basically was trying to forget about everything and you made some serious mistakes, okay? And so this is when Karissa said, you know what? I'm gonna call Tasha to see exactly what's going on and see what she can do. And so we see that Tasha is basically there. And Jacob really has been trying to get a hold of Tasha, and she see the phone, and she was like, oh, now, she all pissy drunk, right? She's like, oh, now you want to call me and everything. You know what, I ain't answering it. And so, by her not answering it, and then what happened was, Karissa called her. And Karissa says, Karissa, Tasha, this is Karissa. And this is when Tasha spilled her. You know how it is when you drink. When you drink, and what they say is that you would tell the truth. Liquor will make you tell the truth. I don't know how true that is, but that's what they say. If you drink enough, the liquor will basically you will begin to, tell the truth as to exactly what's going on. So this is when Tasha spilled her guts. Tasha spilled her guts. She told Karissa, she says, it was only one kiss. It was only one kiss. And so this is when you could see Carissa's veins all across the head, veins all across here popping, right? And so Carissa was like, huh? What? And then she says, Tasha, are you drunk? Are you drunk? And so we go on, and so boom. Carissa finds out that Jacob basically kissed Tasha, and then Tasha said it was only one kiss. And then this is when Chris goes back and she lights into Jacob's behind again. And she says, well, you're at it again. You're a liar and you're a cheat. And she called him something else. But I'm trying to keep, my notes. So she said, you know what? You really, really need help. And then this is when we see, Jacob said, well, you know what? You basically is right. You're basically right. I can't really dispute you on that part. I can't really dispute you on that part. Now, while we're dealing with that, we see Isaiah, and basically we see um, um, Zara. And so Zara goes on and tell Isaiah, um, you're not even identifying me as me being your girlfriend. And then this is when Isaiah says to Zara, well, if you basically do what you're supposed to do and act like you're supposed to do, I will basically claim you as my girlfriend. I was like, okay. So you went, all right, all right. Zara, have you got it yet? Do you see he ain't really, really for you? Have you got it yet? And so this is where we find out that Zara has received an invitation from Spellman to basically have an interview. And so Zara tells Isaiah, she says, well, basically, I've got an interview to go to Spellman. And so this is when Isaiah says, well, I thought basically you came here to be with me. I thought you came here to be with me. And I need you on this tour with me. And the last time I checked, they ain't interested in high school dropout. I was like, oh, so you gonna do that, right? You gonna do that. So you want Zara to basically sacrifice her because apparently it seems like Zara, even though she's ran off and although she's a defiant one, she still wants to go to basically college. She has not dropped that. That is still in her peripheral. That is still in her race. And so she basically told I said, I thought we could basically do that together. Now, here's the deal. Spellman sent her another letter. And so this time, she's over there and Isaiah is basically, I guess, asleep. So, a couple times we see in these episodes, Isaiah been basically asleep when Zara is basically looking at Spellman in school. So I'm thinking to myself, Isaiah, you gonna drop off to sleep one time too soon, and I believe, hopefully she'll get it. She gonna roll out. She gonna roll out on your ass. We just don't know when, but she gonna roll out. And so she looks at the email that Spellman had sent her, and she looks over there at he over there sleeping over there on the couch, right? So she looks at him, and then she puts it down. And so we go on, and we see that remember the conversation that Maxine Patterson basically had with Lady May, and she was basically trying to get some more information from the reason why Lady May is so hard up on Grace, but somehow she was able to skip over all of the information and what Maxine was trying to get to. And so she tells Maxine, she says, look, time is basically running out, so let them call the car, let the secretary call the car, and basically I'll meet you, at dinner. I'll talk to you later. Boom, she left out. And so this is when now this is when that we see because see we see that Rochelle and the bishop. Rochelle and the bishop is basically drinking champagne. And they all in the daylight. They're not uh in the night. What's that song? Me and Mrs. Jones. We got a thing going on. Well, the bishop and Rochelle, they got a thing going on, and they're no longer going to be in the dark. They're going to show themselves out in the daytime. And so they're all huggy, and all, all drinking champagne and this. And of course, they're at Percy's house. And so this is when the bishop is all happy and tells Rochelle, he says, you know what? I basically need to find me, I need to find me another place. I can't, in other words, you and we can't really get it going on with me and you at the graveyard. So I need my own place so I can really feel comfortable when I get ready to get a hold of you. And so this is when Rochelle says, well, you know what? I think I can help you with that. I think I can help you with that. And I was saying to myself, Lordy have mercy, Bishop, please don't fall for this. Please don't fall for it, but hey, he's a man. I'm not gonna say all men are like that, but he's falling for it. He's falling for it, guys. He's falling for it. And so this is when we go on and we see that Darius and Grace have basically taken a little drive. They're taking a little drive, and we find out that Rochelle has been in the system, and we meet Rochelle, I guess, meet one of Rochelle's basically parents. Uh, and so this is when we find out that Rochelle did have a sister. And so when they find out this information, this is when we see that, this is when we see that Grace. Grace basically goes and talks to her father at Percy's house. And so Grace sees that the bishop is all happy-go-lucky and everything. And Grace says, well, I see you happy. She says, I haven't seen you happy like this in quite some time, Pop. I really haven't seen you happy like this. And so the bishop says, yes, it's good. It's good. And so this is when Grace says, well, Pop, I don't want to dampen your tears, but basically I have some bad news for you. And this is when the bishop said, well, whatever you have, we can basically work it out. We can work it out. We can work it out. And so this is this is when Grace tells Pop, he says, it's about Rochelle. Now, guys, you should see that face on him. His face like dropped down. And he was like, oh shit, I basically knew that you were going to dig in with basically about Rochelle. And this is when he says, if it's about Rochelle, I really don't want to hear anything about this woman. And then this is when Grace says, well, Papa, I definitely had to tell you. She goes on and says, you remember, what was that? Remember, in other words, Rochelle is the stepsister of Skanks, Basie Skanks. Rochelle and Basie Skanks are related. And this is when the bishop sat down and he really thought about it. He was like, oh shit, what is this all about? Now remember when we saw that, Lady Mae basically told Maxine Patterson, that basically she will get with her, for dinner and stuff like that. Well, this is when we go on, guys. We see that Lady Mae has went to see Lionel. She knocks on the door. Lionel opens up the door, and Lady Mae said, "What's up, Lionel?" And then this is when Lionel tells us and tells Lady Mae, he says, "I basically want to talk about my daughter." I was like, what? Lionel, did you say you basically want to talk about your daughter? You did say that, right? You did say that. Did you basically want to talk about your daughter? And I was like, what? I was like, but you know what? This ain't new. Because we figured it out. We figured it out in episode 1. We said, what the hell going on? What the hell going on? So, Lady Mae, you've been having this little secret for a very long time. You held on to that secret. You held on to that secret. And you were digging into your daughter because you committed adultery. Not only did you commit adultery, you had a daughter out of wedlock with another preacher. I ain't into the Bible that much, but girl. I ain't into the Bible that much, but girl. Ain't that the ultimate sin? Ain't that the ultimate? But anyway, we ain't done. We ain't done. Girl. Tasha is basically going at it again. And Karissa, on the other side of town, is digging into Jacob. It's telling Jacob, call her. And while are you kidding me? Excuse me, guys. Sorry about that. And Karissa is telling Jacob, call her. And in the meantime, this is when we see the new accountant comes in. And the accountant and Carissa and them said, well, what's going on? Why? And this is when the accountant tells Carissa and them about the money. What was the amount of that money? What was the amount of that money? I think it was 200,000. I could be wrong on that one, y'all. But this is when the new accountant tells Jacob and Karissa the amount of money, and it was a lot of money. And this is when he tells her that apparently the money has been put into one account and then turned around and taken out in another account, and the money has disappeared. So this is what's going on this side of the town, right? And then in the meantime, Tasha is still doing the drunk thing. She is still having a drunk binge. Then all of a sudden we hear the knock on the door. Bang, 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 bang. And so this is when Tasha takes this crystal lamp, pull it out the socket. She says, Rochelle, if you don't get the heck away from my door, and then Rochelle said, open up this door. And Rochelle, she goes and they open up the door. And then this is what Tasha said, you got 2 minutes to tell me and get the out of my way. And then this is when Rochelle says, she said, I get, you need to get out before I basically call the police. And when I call the police, I'm gonna tell them I might mess around and tell them everything. And then this is when, because prior before that, Rochelle had got out and made a call and said that we have an issue. So basically, that call that she was making was to, what's going on. So we see Rochelle moves out the way, right? And guess who shows up? Basie shows up. And this is when Tasha drops the lamp and she shatters the lamp. And this is when Basie comes and he sees Rochelle. He says, hey, no, he sees Tasha. He says, Tasha. This is when Tasha's eyes was like all big. It was like, oh shit. And he moves in it. And this seems like it was very, very somewhat erotic, but not erotic because I was like, oh shit, what is he going to do? What is he going to do? Is he going to choke her up? Or is he going to make passionate love to her? What the heck is he going to do? And that's when everything, boom, went up. Now, guys, a lot of people, basically who are doing the review saying that it wasn't all that, but I felt that we have 3 episodes. We have 3 episodes to go. But before I go on, I have a habit of not asking you guys to click like and subscribe and share this video and become a subscriber to make my channel grow. Okay, so I got that out of the way. But girl, ladies, gentlemen, whoever's watching this was one of the best so far. But we can see that Aaron and Grace may be allegedly brothers and sisters. We don't know yet. Um, Zara. What's Zara gonna do? Is she gonna go to Spelman? Is she gonna roll out on Isaiah? I think she is. Basie. I don't know what Basie is really up to. Grace has found out some more stuff, so Grace is getting. I hope she don't choke Rochelle out, and that bailing fund may be used on her to get her ass back out again. But anyway, this was a very good, and this was well written. This was well written, and I'm saying to myself, okay, Lady May. So this is why you walking around with your head on your shoulders and you basically looking at Grace every day, knowing that you had Grace while you were in your marriage. While you were in your marriage. Unlike the bishop, yeah, he screwed your sister, but he ain't had no children. You did. Oh man, this was like really, really good. And we got 3 more episodes, so it's 13 episodes. So I don't know if you're aware, but they have been renewed for season 4 because I think and this final getting up to the final, they're gonna leave us in the cliffhangers. They're gonna leave us in the cliffhangers. Get ready for the cliffhangers, and then we're gonna have to wait until the summer to midsummer to get back. But in the meantime, peace and love. This is All Things Cheryl here, and continue to be here to the next 3, 4 episodes, to the final episode, to give you the rundown on the realness of what really goes on in the house of the Lord. Take care. Peace and love is for everyone.